Our guests today are the founders and managing partners of the Event Design Collective. They are the creators of the Event Canvas methodology, a tool for planners and organizations to help consciously design behavior change. Based out of the Netherlands, they have just released their second book, Design for Change, which could not be more timely for the events industry. In part, this book is about the importance of conversations, which is what we will do as we illuminate Ruud Janssen and Roel Frissen to the Illuminate Project podcast. So I'm so excited. I was just saying my two worlds are colliding finally, and my two favorite guys get to meet. So I'm so excited.
But I'm going to put you in the middle, Marie-France. You're surrounded.
I was just going to say, got her in the same spot.
Marie-France tries to slide in conversation about the Event Design Collective into every episode, so much that we've had to actually tell her to tone it down a little bit so it's not the focus of all 30 of our episodes.
It always
what is your technique, Tim, to do that? Because
we just edit her out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called delete.
The editor.
Well, I am anyways. I think it always applies. There's always something to say about it. But so thanks for coming. We're so excited to have you and to talk about what's going on right now.
You got a few things coming out, right? Or just released, I guess. You've got your new book that came out, and that's got to be exciting too. I've been working on that during a pandemic, and I think Marie-France even has a special insert in it.
Absolutely.
Oh, we didn't cut her out, Roel?
What we did is we altered her quote a little bit, but hey.
Well, Roel, you look a little shell-shocked, actually. How are you just done? Are you happy it's done? It's a labor of love, I imagine.
It's a beast to create a book with 3 people. We've done it once, and that doesn't mean you master it. Mm-hmm. So the second time was actually also hard. But I must admit that what we have, we bottled up everything we developed since 2012. In that event design handbook. And then we discovered, hey, we need to do something about that. And we need to bottle up these conversations, but also bottle up the best practices, bottle up the how to do this in a book. We just brought to the printer last week.
I'm curious if you have event designers from all across the world, no doubt, right? You've got Marie-France here in Canada. So tell us, like, how far did those conversations stretch?
I think
across. Yeah, I think across most time zones.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the conversations with the certified event designers, but actually all the conversations with anyone that designs that we have a conversation with is rocket fuel for this kind of stuff, right? So just this morning we were designing with people in Asia Pacific, early morning for us, but you know, Hong Kong and Australia and the time zones where if you are not careful, they always end up being in their late evenings, right?
Yeah.
So we have to keep adjusting. We just did a program for the Thailand Convention Bureau some time back, and we had to wake up at 3 a.m. and shave and be ready and look fresh at 4 a.m. to deliver a hybrid training to people that were comfortably sitting at the Sukhothai Hotel and having the full experience. So
you just need to go with the Canadian look and just not shave. That's what Tim and I do. It's easier.
Sorry, have you guys found that globalization has increased in the past year and a half with people getting more comfortable with virtual and more comfortable with reaching out to people across the globe?
Yes. I would say that in the beginning, just thinking back to in the beginning we had innovators from across many different language regions who said, "Ooh, I love that. Can I translate it into my language?"
Yeah.
Right? Which was cool because then you would be able to localize, like the event canvas in whatever, in Arabic or in Japanese or in, in Turkish or whatever it might be. The user group and the people that come to our trainings was because the trainings were hosted in, Pacific, in San Diego and East Coast US and Amsterdam. And then depending on where we were holding them, you get people that locally flock towards it. Having the ability to do it online, which we have long time resisted not for the event designs we do, because we've been doing hybrid events for a long time, but our own event design for our trainings. We started doing that in June last year because we had people registered and they said, well, it doesn't matter how it is, we're going to be there, right? So let's make it happen.
Yeah. The demand.
And what we found is that now people from South Africa and from Uganda, and people are saying, well, I'm joining because I can. Right? I've been waiting for this, not waiting for the pandemic, but waiting for an opportunity to join. And it became much easier to then do that online. So
Interesting. We're going to change gears a bit for a second. We're going to put you guys through one of our segments, our rapid fire crazy eights. Okay, first question. Live to eat or eat to live?
Live to eat.
All right, Ruud?
Live to eat.
All right. Second question. What time do you typically get up?
8 a.m.
This morning it was 7 a.m., but that's because we had an 8 a.m. design sprint. But normally I'm more like 8:30ish.
Okay.
Oof. Must not have kids.
Do, but they're grown up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Roel. Plans or no plans?
Plans.
Ruud?
Depends on the day, but normally plans.
I thought you guys would both be plans kind of guys. Personal trainer or personal chef?
Personal trainer. Personal chef.
Okay.
I could tell that, Ruel loves to run. I could totally, I could have bet money on that one.
How far do you run, Ruel?
As long as the road is. No. I'm currently in a trough where I lack inspiration.
Join the club.
Run long distance, but I did 6 marathons and many more miles to prepare for those marathons. But I like walking. In the pandemic, I discovered walking, and that's.
I've done 3 marathons, and I'm in that same rut that you are. I'm pressed to get out for 4K nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay. What sense do you rely on the most?
Common sense.
Whoa! Awesome.
That's a good one.
Ruud?
I love it.
You can't tell that answer. Audio. Okay. We did not expect that.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Number 6, truth or dare?
Dare.
All right, now we're going to ask you this dare. No, just kidding.
Ruud?
Dare.
Number 7, author or facilitator?
Facilitator.
Facilitator.
Okay, interesting.
Despite a new book coming out.
Yes.
Let's go now, right?
Yeah, that's a thing of the past.
With a sigh of relief, you said.
And number 8, are you surviving or thriving in the status quo?
Thriving.
Definitely thriving.
Cool.
Awesome.
No doubts.
Awesome. That was great.
It's actually a bit the theme for our season 2 now is we were about challenging the status quo, but after the year we had, we felt it was a bit obscene to be asking that kind of question after everybody is really just trying to get through it every day, especially in our industry. So now we're about surviving and thriving.
Now we talked about.
I feel it's also it's not per se a pandemic situation. I feel it's a choice.
True.
Can you explain that a bit?
For me, it's so obvious, or at least in the last 15 years of my life, I discovered that many things are a choice, right? So and you can choose for one or the other, and glass half full, half empty. And I think that one of the first choices we made after this became reality is that we said, like, now we're going to finish this book, right? So now we're going to write it, and that's something we did. So I think it's also something you can choose for. And now, at least when I look back, hopefully in 5-6 years on this pandemic, and hopefully it will be finished after the summer, or at least everybody is safe and sound again, and can go back to some kind of a normal. And I hope that I can look back at it. Oh, that was a That was a time where we did something else, right? So where we achieved something, despite of all the restrictions, but also on a private level. I think we had a blast last year in terms of we did what we could, and we spent time with each other, and we made something out of it, and I think that is priceless.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? I think that's a great philosophy that you have a choice in how to handle your situation. But I'm going to press you a little bit on that. This is unprecedented times, and especially for the events industry. Was that philosophy ever challenged by the current times? And did that philosophy kick in day one when this all hit? Or did you go through a bit of a process to rely on that?
For me, it hit me right away, right? So I always think what can be done and not what cannot be done.
Yeah.
For instance, my son wants to be a stand-up comedian, and every year.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome!
Every year we take him to attend a stand-up comedy show, and this is really important for them. He listens to them on Spotify. He knows every show by heart. And on 8th of March last year was the last time you could ever go to the theater, right? So everything we went into lockdown. So we went to that, and he really, really enjoyed it. And then everything closed. And so 8th of March this year, we actually said there's nothing possible. We cannot go, right? So what I did is I bought a theater show online in that same theater we always go to in Amsterdam, in the city center, very renowned theater. And I said, okay, that's cool. And I looked on eBay, and I found 4 theater chairs of that special theater, right?
Oh my
older
God.
ones, and I installed them on the attic.
That's amazing.
With a big TV screen. So it's all about experience. I'm just saying, it's not that we cannot go to the theater. That doesn't mean that we cannot build a theater of our own, and then we cannot replace or reimagine that experience. I think this is, for me, emblematic of how we handle stuff, and we try to make things happen in terms of what can be done and what cannot be done.
Yeah. And clearly you guys are innovators, just the way you answered your truth or dare question. You both said dare. So I'm curious, I'm looking at your company. Give us an example of something like a big risk you took with the company, and how it kind of rolled out and played out.
Okay. So big risk we took with our company is that we bootstrapped it, right? We started from scratch without foreign capital, and then we gave away what we created,
right?
Under Creative Commons. I think those were 2 kind of risky things. It also meant 3 years of relative discomfort in terms of bootstrapping. Means that you have to, eat your own sawdust for a while. And I think having a recurring approach to first giving and then receiving back, I think, is something that really helps propel the engine, right, so to say. So it's kind of like a rocket fuel that you can use in many ways. Another example might be, we had people that came to our program to become a certified event designer, and then they said, we like it so much, I'd like to come back for a second time. So it freaked us out because we thought we were teaching it really poorly. We were like, well, what have we done wrong? Like, have you not learned enough in the first round? And people just said, no, we just love hanging out, and we'll want to just do another event design. And we're like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then
3 times.
True story, right? But then it also made us think, okay, some people came back 2 or 3 times or 4 times. Like, okay, hold on.
Did these people fail in the initial course?
No, they didn't. No, not all of them. No.
What about the one on the show here?
The one on the show. Yeah, I mean that would be edited out, Ryan, if we would.
No, give us some dirt on her. We want to learn something that.
No. So
here's what happened with what happened with Marie-France. I mean, our program was in Toronto, in Canada, for the first time when we made it to Canada, and she literally, took the bull by the horn and said, "Why isn't this in Montreal? Right? You guys should come to Montreal next time." And she took our motto, which is, let's create the problem first, we're not saying that Marie-France is the problem. She actually noticed.
Well, not all the time.
She actually noticed up front that, hey, this experience, if I would bring it to my neck of the woods, I could influence and be part of it a second time. Maybe that was the ulterior motive. But the other motive was, these guys haven't been to Montreal for a while, or at least I hadn't been, and Roel hadn't been yet. But also about taking ownership, right? And this is something we really enjoy when people take initiatives. But that's our side of the story. Marie-France, what's yours?
My side? Well, yeah, I think you inspire people. Well, I think you inspire certain people who have a certain personality trait. I don't know if it's for everybody, but you definitely bring out that side in me and bring that side out in other people. And I find it really inspiring, this sort of can do, anything is possible mentality. And it's very exciting. And I find it incredibly infectious, because there's nothing I hate more than when people keep telling me no. I don't know why I work at the university, mind you, with that, but and yeah, it's just a breath of fresh air when you're around people who are like, anything is possible. Oh, you want to have a movie theater at home? Let's do it. I love that story. And it's perfectly symbolic of everything you guys do. So I love that you shared that with us. I thought, you know what, this is so like what planners are like in Montreal. It's exactly like what I want to be part of. So yeah, I just invited you to Montreal, and to my shock, you said yes. And I was like, oh, great.
Okay. Now what?
Well, I love it when people say yes to me. It's my favorite thing. So take note, guys. It's my favorite.
Yeah, but then you also
thing.
delivered, and I think this is part of the...
I'll always deliver.
There's an instinct of trust that you have when you collaborate with people, or when you work with people, when you learn with people. We see that, right? So when you learn together, you stay together. That's why universities are still successful.
I would like to add to that, right? So also making a reference to the book is that it's not that. So in our book, in chapter 6, the Design to Change book, chapter 6, we talk about to become successful at claiming time, and we talk about a pebble and a rock. Right. So I think about daring and building on that a little bit more. It's not the question that we don't throw anything in the water. Right. The question is, will it be a pebble or will it be a rock? Right. So and if you keep that analogy alive, then you also know that dropping a little pebble in the water is not causing huge ripples, right? But also it doesn't cost you a lot of energy, right? Just like plop, and it's gone, right? Yeah. If you want to move a rock even to the water and then try to push it in, you need maybe several people, right? So it's not about not throwing anything in the water. It's like you chose that we're going to throw something in the water, and then it's for us. I think it's about let's throw something big, right? Because then it has a lot of ripple effect, and then we can reach a lot of people and actually enable people to do more of these things. I think that's where the dare is, and also what Marie-France did to take us to Montreal. I think it's easier said than done, right? But she asked us, she promised, and she delivered, right?
She has a way of getting what she wants, right?
I think so, yeah.
So we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. And if you like what you hear, you might even like TIPP Talks.
TIPP Talks is a custom podcast tailored to your event.
And a great way to highlight your speakers before your event actually starts.
And we'd love to help you figure all that out and make your event an even better ROI experience for your sponsors and your participants. So if you want to hear more, you can check us out on our website at switchidea.co.
We were talking before the show about, the history and how you guys came together. And I asked Marie-France, how did you guys get to know each other? And she honestly couldn't answer me. So I'm going to ask you guys, tell us, let's go back.
I've forgotten. I don't remember.
Yeah. So how did this all come together? Where did you guys meet? I see you're sitting here. It looks like we've got Netherlands, and I see the different flags on your little Event Design Live stickers there. So tell us the background.
I'll let Ruud do the majority of this, but we were born 5 kilometers from each other, and also different, some years apart, I believe. And we didn't know each other from that time, but we only got to know each other when we were like in our 40s or something, right? Yeah. So, and I think that is, but that I think lays the foundation, right? So we grew up from the same kind of culture. which is in the very south of the Netherlands, 2 villages next to each other. And I think the historical perspective and the, a cultural perspective is huge when you think about stuff and when you work together. And that works and that helps. But then let the real, how do we come together to Ruud?
Dig back. I think it was an MPI encounter, MPI Netherlands chapter quite some years back, probably like 2 decades ago, I would suppose.
Yeah.
Where you're building a chapter, and you guys know all about this stuff, right?
It's how we met.
You're spending,
actually.
You're spending volunteer time. You were in different chapters actually, and that's how you brought the chapters together. We happen to have been in the same chapter because the Netherlands is such a small country, and there was quite some work to be done. When I was retired from those board positions, we kind of had to rethink, like, how do these chapters function? How do they create value, et cetera, et cetera? And we started vibing on that quite a bit. And we also discovered that it's super powerful to have this mental model, right? Having a common language, having a mental model, having a way to think about something is a really powerful way to get people on the same page, but also to take away the blah blah and have very succinct conversations, especially when you have such a diverse group of people with very varied interests.
I was just going to say that, like, the fact that you guys are so like-minded, great to start up the company, but as you continue to grow it and you write these books, that's when you start to call in all your event designers from all across the world, right? To bring in some extra diversity and different perspectives when you're writing that.
And initially, this didn't start, this never started as a company, right? So this started as a mission to actually, take the blah, blah out of this event industry and create events. Get rid of mediocre events would be the negative approach, but really it's about empowering people to articulate how their events create value and equipping them, empowering them with a way to do that.
Yeah.
And at first, when we created this canvas, we decided to literally give it away, because that example we had seen from the business model canvas, which was very successful, to spread and start getting adoption. But also we noticed that, maybe the design of the canvas that we initially did was so poor that people needed help in explaining, how to actually use it. So we created questions on the canvas, and then the questions were pretty driving, but then people said, like, oh, when you guys do it, it looks so simple. Can you explain how you do that? Okay, we can explain how you do that. And then people said, can you write down the steps? And we're like, oh no, now we gotta actually do work. Right? Like we created this thing called, then we created a game, or at least we thought it was a game. So it was a napkin, and we prototyped and sat people around the table. And this was when we had our first client who said, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that I need it. Right. And they were in Austria, and we went out to Austria a couple of times, which was nice because it allowed us to go skiing, which is something else that we really enjoy.
It's true. Wherever they go in the world, you always end up with a picture of them skiing.
We always have to do something sportive in terms of. Originally, it was a game until somebody told us there's no winners.
Right.
And that's true, right? Nobody wins or loses in event design. Everybody wins. So it's not a game, it's a facilitation kit. And this is how one thing led to the other. And that's when we wrote the event design handbook and, got to launch the canvas on a slightly larger podium at the WC. So MPI has been a red thread through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've always been very enabling to give us, to be curious as to what we were up to. I don't think they always understood what we were up to.
Nobody
but
knows.
in hindsight, I think they were pretty, it's been a very, very powerful kind of tandem of volunteering, having a community that cares about something, having a set of pains that need to be resolved, and a huge opportunity, let's face it. I mean, events are the networks of humans, right? It's what the internet is in ones and zeros. Events are that for humanity, and we just need to do better, right? We just need to put on better events and design them better and spend time thinking about them in better ways. And that's what we're out to do.
I love what you're saying, because I think and that's how I felt when I first discovered it. But I think a lot of event planners or people in the industry feel this way. It's that I feel it's difficult to put into words what an event planner does. And I think the industry has struggled with that for a long time. And what I feel like what you've done with your event canvas methodology book and the practice, as well as with this design to change, from everything you've said, I mean, this word keeps coming up to me, and it's that you take the ephemeral, if I might say, it's my big word, guys, I'm sorry.
Get your dictionary out, Ryan.
They always tease me for saying big words, but you take the ephemeral and you give people the language or the tools to be able to express it. And I think that's incredibly powerful, because I don't think, especially in the event industry, it's difficult because there's like a lot of like I could say, it's like, I know this works, but I can't explain why. And what you guys did is you gave the language to be able to do that, which is super powerful, because now you're not in the justifying mode anymore.
Yeah. And we got a chance to try that out with when we created the event and we went through the design process, and it had helped immensely. And now as we're going into its third and I guess fourth year, it's reevaluating, okay, where do we need, which direction do we need to take now? So it's definitely been a useful tool in our worlds specifically.
So we have a game of our own called Temporary or Transformation.
What's it gonna be? T or T?
So I know the event canvas has been transformational for our industry. And, we've had a lot of discussions on this podcast about how challenging times are best for creativity and innovation. And definitely the last year and a half has been challenging for our industry and the events community. So we'd like to know from each of you, with what you've seen over the past year and a half, give us something you've seen, a trend or an idea that is either temporary or transformational in terms of it may be short-lived, or it may go on to change the way we look at things.
One of the things which instantly comes to mind is we entered this Zoom call right now. We're recording this podcast from Canada, Netherlands, and Switzerland. And when I joined the Zoom call, there was a studio view camera on.
Yep.
One of the things I think which is there to stay and is then, so to say, transformational. And this pandemic has definitely done that. But I would like to ask you something about, add something to that. And that's a mind game, I guess, where lots of people in my community have to work from home or are in lockdown, and they just need to, right? They cannot go to the office, or are not allowed to, or don't want to. All different options. Then they sit behind a laptop, staring at their screen, getting all kind of shoulder aches and RSI and these kind of things. One of the first things we did is actually we invested in stuff, right? In cameras and good microphones and good setups. What is it?
You want that list afterwards.
Stand-up desks, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We felt like, what about my tailored suit? What about my ties? I don't need to buy them anymore, right? So that's definitely changed, right? So why don't I spend that money on some good, serious stuff where my appearance, just as I wear a suit and a nice tie, where my appearance is a little bit touched up, a little bit better, right? You're gonna build your own environment, your own studio. I think people will think about it a little bit more. I see your black and white pictures on the Zoom call. I see your quality microphones. There's in production. You can add so much.
Yeah, it's yours.
But I think that's interesting. Like I think back a year ago, and that was also foreign to all of us. I remember sitting down for the first time to engage in a client call, and I thought, geez, I need a new camera. My camera's not good. Or what does my background look like? Those are questions we didn't ask, until the past year and a half.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So not temporary. This is here to stay.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it's here to improve even. I think I love the retro black and white look. I think that's innovation, right? What you guys are doing, anybody could have done, but you did it first, right? So what triggered that change? That's what interests me, right? Because to me, that's the digital dexterity we've built.
Yeah.
That you cannot unbuild that, right? So The only thing that we noticed is that because we had been doing this for quite a while, maybe not as
your
consciously
environment
as we
hadn't
have.
changed. Yeah.
Sorry?
Sorry, I just wanted to, for everyone's sake, wanted to sort of mention that you guys were a bit on the forefront of all this, right? Like this, your setups and our Zoom calls, we were doing this well before the pandemic, and you always had these beautiful setups. Okay, you added a few cameras and a few more gadgets, which is super fun. I appreciate it. You got to stay on top of it. This is your brand. But you guys were on top of this way before. And it was because of our Zoom calls all the time that when the pandemic hit, I was the Zoom whiz kid of my department at the time.
So it's
because
all,
you guys were ahead of the curve already.
well, and I think, Marie-France, this is the kind of practice that you get, but also the grounding you get because you maybe don't have a choice, or because you do have the choice, right? You create the choice. The fact that we bootstrap, but we were pretty adamant in what type of equipment and how we want things to look when we invite people into our homes or offices is very specific, right?
Yeah.
The yellow sticker behind us, I was like mirror image. I was that sticker, this one, it's not a digital background. And you can hear I'm rolling away from my mic and coming back.
Right.
You have to consciously think about all these ingredients, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the pillow that Ryan has behind him there, right?
Yes.
Should be good enough for a pillow fight between branded companies, right? These are things that you should orchestrate even in a podcast.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It's got something.
Oh, he's going to get you.
There we go. Oh, all right. Look at that.
Wait, let me get mine. That's it.
And for those of you listening to the audio version of the podcast, there's a bit of a pillow fight going on screen right now, and you'll have to head over to our YouTube
channel, check that
and subscribe to be able to get the visuals.
There's actually a pillow fight going on in the mastermind group of the Event Design Collective going on right now.
Right.
It was one of the inspirations for this one. One thing I'd like to add, guys, which is very important. And Roel mentioned this already before, but Dennis Lyer, who is the one that makes all the stuff that looks so complicated look so simple. He's taught us one big thing, and he's one of our, I think, magic cape wearers that is able to take any 3D situation and hit it over the head with a big hammer and then turn it into a 2D picture, but only if you know the underlying narrative, right? So I think the magic in building a company or whatever it is that you're doing, like Roel and I started this thing off and it was kind of a side project that completely got out of hand.
The best ones do.
But it got out of hand also because we realized what we didn't know, right? Because we realized that if we don't wrap our heads around that part, it's going to be hopeless, right? It's not going to work. It's not going to fly. And the same thing goes for, so, know how difficult something is and know how difficult it is to learn. It's not easy to figure out what mic to get, what cables you should have, what setup it is. And then all of us have to figure it out ourselves, right? And then if you have to watch through endless YouTubers sharing what they think is best because they got, you have to weed through the, not so neutral information. The same thing happens with events, right? So what's here to stay, that was one of the questions, Tim, is what's here to stay is the aggravation of sitting through demos of what people think you need and not giving you what you want, which is not a bad thing because actually you need to figure out what you need before you say what you want. This is part of our book as well.
Yeah. For some people, that's part of it, but maybe that's how they get there.
But the learning curve is the thing that's probably most fun, it's most challenging, but it's also the thing that makes it get value. And then acknowledging what it is you need help with. And then buying the best possible kind of help you can find.
Yeah.
Which is so comfortably expensive that you almost can't afford it.
I said, clearly we've got some, we're taking some notes here and we'll be giving you guys a call after.
I've been trying to say this to you guys the whole time. No.
Yeah.
But no, it's so incredibly inspiring. And I love that because we always come away with more ideas and this idea. I think that we can wrap this up with this idea that you can create something out of nothing. There's nothing stopping you. It's a choice, right?
We turned a piece of paper into what's now known as the Event Design Collective.
Yeah.
That's right.
All you have to go to your printer and pick out one of those pieces of paper and you could do something similar. But being original, making it create value, that's the hard part.
Right.
And thank you both for making the time and being here. I know you've been doing kind of a podcast roadshow. I've seen you guys on a few different podcasts. I don't know how this fares up, but we're happy that you were able to talk to us and share with our community in a little bit everywhere. Actually, we were just saying we have hits just about everywhere in the world right now, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for being part of the Illuminate Project podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
To carry on the conversation, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter at IlluminateProj with an 8.
Switch your mindset, stay creative, and we challenge you to not just survive, but thrive in the status quo.